Good morning, good afternoon. I know it's lunch. Not yet, almost. I'll try and be short. My tummy is already reminding me it's lunchtime. My name's Manny. I come from Ireland. I start with an apology, particularly to the interpreters. I speak fast. I'm a native speaker. The first question this morning was, who are you? And it made me think about who I was, and I fit in none of these brackets. I am a disruptor. I am a professional questioner. My job is to question those in power, those who have power, and how power works. Every one of us in our jobs exercises power, power over people, power with people, and more likely in your work, on behalf of. We advocate on behalf of a child, or a young person, or our colleagues. A trade union is a very good example of working together in constructions of power. I hope today that I can very quickly get through these 3 questions. I really hope. The first thing this morning, the evil presenter at the start asked you to do this. Yes, you remember? You were awake already? I won't ask you to do this. I will ask you to do something even more evil. Did anybody not like this exercise this morning? Be honest. Yeah, you were not so comfortable. Probably because you were tired, you didn't want to move, but also he exercised power that maybe you did not agree with. Who is this guy at the front of the room telling me to do this? Did anybody question this in their mind? Did anybody not do it? Not for any physical reason, but just because they didn't agree with his power. You may have appointed a radical here this morning. No revolutions necessary. But we do need to question power. Where's it gone? Do I have it? I had a pencil. In your hand, in your bag, there's something very powerful for you, something that you cannot live without. Mine is my glasses and my pencil. I am a lawyer by training. Liar is a better word for us. We write in pencil because we don't want to commit to anything too much. It's true. But I cannot do my job without these things. I cannot live, I cannot breathe without my pencil or my glasses. They work together. Can you take in your hand something that you feel powerless without? Please go find it. You need to put something in your hand. If you have something, you can hold it up. Yeah, it's going to be your cell phone, isn't it? Yeah, it's your cell phone, it's a book. Anybody got something different than a cell phone or a book? A water bottle? Glasses, yes, for us. There's an avocado, which we'll come back to later. Oh, it's a stress toy, cool, okay. Something other than glasses, pencil, a watch. Okay. A knife. Oh, a car key, not a knife. That's a different form of power. Anybody, anything else? Car keys, glasses, stress reliever, car key, house keys. Good, fantastic. Hold them in your hand. If you have a friend sitting to your left or to your right, you cannot do the next thing with them. You will need to find somebody you don't know or don't really know. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to get the other person's item. This is an exercise in power, and then we'll talk about power and change. 3 minutes, good luck. Go get the other item. You need to find somebody else and get the other item. There are no rules. If you already have it, you can raise it in your hand. Yes! The persuasive corner, good. Keep it. Don't give it back, keep it. We're negotiating here. Anybody else win? About 90 seconds left. About 1 minute now. Do you have it? You've swapped. Okay, I think we'll draw a line there. Okay, stop. Okay, stand up. Sorry. Just stand up for a second, it's easy. Did anybody get more than what they asked for? Did nobody win a phone and a pair of glasses or 2 sets of car keys? What did you get? Just the phone, but you got nothing extra. Nothing more. Did somebody? No, sometimes some people manage to get extras. The last time I did this, somebody managed to get another guy's, a girl, got the minister's car keys, phone, and we won't talk about what else, but it was complicated. Did anybody use their girl or boy power? The fact that they're pretty. Did anybody do this? Anybody? Wow, how honest you are. Did anybody, if you did, you could sit down. You're out. If you use the fact that you're a nice looking person, that you used something against somebody, that you were a boy or a girl, you used a power, a gender relationship. Anybody? No? Good. Did anybody negotiate? Yes, negotiators, you could sit down. Anybody who just naturally negotiated? Natural negotiation. Did anybody come up with a contract? An agreement? You can borrow my phone for 10 minutes if I can have your phone for 10 minutes. Did somebody do this? No? How did you do it? Pardon? Really? Politely? Did anybody use violence? Come on, be on. Stay standing, you will come back to you. Good. How else did you do it over here? You just swapped. Okay, equal power. Okay, fine, thank you. You guys just swapped. Tell me. Yeah? Great, good, you've already learned. I'm going home, I'm done. These guys have won. Good. Yes, you used violence. Okay, thank you. Anybody else, some other tactic that they used that wasn't negotiation, gender, contract, violence? No? These are all forms of power that we agree with, that we see, that we understand in our world. Gender is perhaps, in our world, one of the most evil and pervasive forms of power that we agree with. We get up in the morning and we understand power, men, women, and the relationship between them. We're struggling with that relationship. This morning, for the next about 10 minutes, my job is to think more about how to disrupt that power mechanism. Advocacy, lobbying, campaigning, influencing is all about disrupting power. There's a very boring UNICEF definition up here, but I think it's very simple. It's about a thoughtful process. There's a very famous guy in my field, and he calls us the beard strokers. He obviously needs a lesson in gender mainstreaming, but we're the thinkers. Our job is to think. When we think about change, it's a long process. We think 95% of our time, and only 5% we take action. Very boring job. It means we have to read a lot. And we're looking at power holders, the guy standing at the front of the room, the minister, the member of the local authority, the other guy in your organization. And importantly, it's bringing about positive change. Unfortunately, when we bring about positive change, it usually means somebody else loses out. And this is the role of law. When we change something in our communities, when we ask for a new street to be built, when we ask for a new playground to be built, when we ask for a new community center, somebody loses. This is very important, and we'll get back to these people who lose. We've already spoken about all of this all morning, whether we realize this or not. This is from neuroscience. And at the middle, in the center circle, is us on a daily basis. We're comfortable. We enjoy life. We don't move out of our comfort zone too often as animals. Our pure, boring brain programming doesn't like stress. It doesn't like the cold. It doesn't like change, and it doesn't like different. That's an unfortunate part of our neuroscience. The middle bit, influence, the second bit, is the stressful part of our lives. If anybody's a teacher, this is also how people teach. When people are stressed, low levels of stress, you can teach people, you can change things. When we get to high levels of stress, the third circle, concern, nothing happens. The human body goes into a different mode. Fight or flight mode. We're useless as animals at this point. But in order for change to happen, for us, for our client, for our communities, regardless of where change happens, we individually need to live in the second circle. We first need to be uncomfortable. If you're changing anything in your life, for yourself, for your child, for your client, for your community, for your country, for the world, you will be uncomfortable. That's it. People who work in this field will burn out. Their brains cook. They get very stressed very quickly because they're constantly in a level of stress. The reason I talk about this in the form of neuroscience is because I want to go back to how we apply it to advocacy and change. And let me give you a very easy example. A doctor working in a cancer ward here in Regan, the hospital, the main hospital. In his realm of control, in his day job, he treats his patients. Most of the time, let's hope, he does well and he is successful. He stays in his comfort zone, but he wants to do more for cancer. So what he might do in the next level to make it more stressful for him, but a higher outcome for his patients, is move into a different area of influence. Moving beyond the circle of his patients and moving towards the policy of the hospital, the policy of the local authority, the policy of donors. But that takes him outside his comfort zone. The last circle for this doctor would be if he was bonkers. And these people are the pioneers of the world. These people are the Nobel laureates. These people are the geniuses. These people really make change. They go way outside of their way, and they don't say, okay, I'm okay with being uncomfortable, I'm okay with stress. They say, let's change everything. They have no understanding that there's something in their way. There's a 16-year-old coming from Sweden. Has anybody heard of her this week? On a train, she's heading right now down through Europe to Brussels. She's a 16-year-old who did not agree with any of these constructions of power and said, no more climate change. Isn't it fantastic that she doesn't understand these constructions of power and she just thinks, we can change this? But hopefully her leadership will guide the rest of us. She's already guided 100,000 children across Europe to take action on climate change. Even if her only contribution is coming to Brussels, that 6 months of intervention will have helped 100,000 people understand climate change. She is very uncomfortable. I mean, 2 days taking a train, talking in Brussels at 16. I'm a little bit older than 16, and I don't find it comfortable talking in Brussels. But she will create massive change. So Now that we're thinking in the terms of change, we need three things. Message, target, channel. They're the only three words I need you to remember. Message, target, channel. Is the politician still in the room? Has he left? Are there any other members of the ministerial staff here? Because then I have to have a different discussion. You just do this. What I'm about to tell you will hopefully, they won't listen too well, but I'm going to tell you some of the tactics about how we might influence and change things at the power holder level. So just... The first thing is the message. So here I've tried to make it very human, very simple. So you have a child who comes in, young person, who's doing well, doesn't have a lot of financial resources, but wants to do a course. The local authority says, no, that course is too expensive, goodbye. Get out of my office. This is not good for you. Now you move out of your comfort zone, you decide I need to change something. But the message cannot be for one person. Because if we change things for one person, that's it. We've wasted all our time, energy, and money on one person. Not wasted, but we could have been more effective doing bigger. Is it clear for you what the problem is? Yes. But is it clear for the power holder? No. The person in the ministry doesn't care about one individual child. Here we need to make the message a bit clearer, a bit more easy to understand for the minister or the local authority. And now I need to write it in a language they understand. We have to talk the language of power holders. In Brussels, we hire experts in Geneva at the UN, in New York. We hire experts who speak those languages. It's still English or French, but they speak it in a way that I don't understand. Really, I don't understand. I have no idea. I think I speak in this middle part, but I certainly don't speak in this policy level. This is the first bit. Message needs to be clear in their language. No. This is not this. Sorry. The next thing I said was target. Message, target, channel. We're going to broadcast our message, but who needs to hear the message? Who is the target of my message? And this is where we need to do a little bit of research. There are a couple of different ways about making this change I talked about, whether it's at local authority level or national level, trying to change the funding regime, the funding policy for children or young people accessing education. This is very, very complicated. We need to research all of the ways change happens. There's about 3 or 4 different ways we need to think about it. This is how law is written in Kenya. It's very, very boring. This is the first 4 stages. But for example, if I work in an NGO, I'm allowed work here, 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 and here. But if I don't know these things, I cannot make change for that child or all those young people. The next one talks about who can help us and who's against us. This is a silly and stupid map. This was prepared for, I think, the war in Iraq or Afghanistan, and the guy was fired the next day, which I really like because he was a general. There's even a film about it, Brad Pitt's in it. And he wrote this map. He was sent to the Middle East and he was asked to write a stakeholder map of who was involved in change. When we talk about change, there are people who are working against us. The people who don't want the community centre built for other reasons. There are people who want to work with us, trade unions, NGOs, children and young people, the people who have the best interest at heart. And there are those that can help us make change. Power holders, influencers, celebrities, there's a whole spectrum of people. And when we map that out, then we can have a clear route about how we can come about change. This is a real one. If I think to the Minister for Education, I had a real example, but I had to delete it in case they were in the room. But this is an example I used in Malawi. It's real. In Malawi, we were looking to change the law on children in care a couple of years ago, and I couldn't find a way to get the minister. I was screaming for days about how do I get to the minister. And then somebody said, oh, she's a really strong Catholic. really? What does she do at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings? I need to take a walk. So I went and I sat in her church. Obviously, I'm pretty obvious when I sit in a church in Malawi that maybe I shouldn't be there. But I need to be where they are. I listened, then I left. Then I got somebody else to listen for some weeks. Then I got somebody else to stand after the gospel was read and talk about children and children in care. And we did that every week for 12 weeks. And eventually the minister started hearing this new speech. We also got the priest and the archbishop involved. So there are lots of other people that can be used to help along our way for change. The last is who we need to target, the power holder. This is where advocacy, lobbying, influencing, whatever you want to call it, is key. There's one person who can sign the check. There's one person who can sign the law. There's one person who makes the change. It doesn't mean that I need to sit outside his doorstep or her doorstep and ring on it and tell them what I want to do, but it does mean I need to take action towards them. This is where our work gets a little bit scary, a little bit interesting. So I was thinking about this conference and the Erasmus Plus, one of the EU funds that's used to help fund this project, this conference. And I thought, how do I ensure there's more money for events and conferences like this? So I want to do some advocacy towards somebody here in Latvia who has some influence in Brussels on Erasmus Plus. So I need to do some research. So I looked at all the members of European Parliament. That's them. Aren't they beautiful? And this guy here is, well, I think I liked his face. So I thought, well, I think I'm going to do some research about him. I think he might be the right guy for me. So I don't really know anything about him. There he is. There's his MEP page. I genuinely don't know anything about him, except for the next 3 slides. But I thought I'd look him up because he's a Green and he's with EFA, which means he's a liberal, in theory, sort of. But also I know that he has certain interests. He was on the human rights something here in Latvia at one point. I know that maybe I could think about influencing him in Brussels. But he's just a photograph on a website. Well, there's a little bit more about him. This is his voting record. You can get this in your parliament. You can get it in the European Parliament. Here's his Facebook page as a politician. If I'm really evil in advocacy, I did this in 10 minutes. Somebody mentioned already this morning around Facebook and all of these guys stealing my data. The other thing when we research people is we want to be a little bit more hidden. So I normally make a fake Facebook account, fake email addresses when I start researching people, so nobody can trace me. And then I find out everything about them. Unfortunately, this poor guy is not very good at his own security. On his other Facebook page, he's got his public phone number. There's his email address. And if I'm right, I think even his Gmail account is here. He is never going to stop hearing from me until he changes the Erasmus Plus law in Brussels. Poor Miroslav. Change is really around disrupting power. And if you think about disruption as how change happens, you will change anything. This is my favorite quote for this, and this is why I led with the story of that 16-year-old this week. Because one person can change absolutely everything. Thank you, and enjoy your lunch.
So can I have my power back?
No.
No. Never again. After you, never, ever again.
Not after the revolutionary Estonian clan in the corner.
They've had already revolution. Mums nav jautājums, Lado. We don't have any questions sent in. Do you have any questions or objections? Because we know how it should be, you know? Yeah? Do we have any questions? Any objections? So one question from me to you. Can you please... Oh no, I can't ask you. Okay. Right. I have one question.
Powerless without your phone, right?
Yeah, I know. No, but about the politicians, we are all asking people to do things without considering that actually they are counting on how their voters will look at it. So are you saying that we need a special specialists who are writing down the, in a special way, how to sell things to politicians so they can sell things to their voters?
Yeah. The wonderful thing about May 26, 27, 28, 29 this year is what? European elections, right? Vanity is the best way to get change at the moment. He has his own Twitter account, he has his own Facebook account, he has his own MEP page. This is how I would get to him. I wouldn't plead with him the way you talk about it, I would plead to his vanity. Most members of parliament are vain. Their job relies on your decisions, not theirs. Who would want a job that every 4 years everybody in the country gets a vote over it? It's ridiculous. So use the vanity, use the fact that they have to have a job next. In some places you can vote out your MEPs or your members of parliament. But there isn't, when we talk about members of parliament and politicians, bring them on your journey. You can't ask somebody on day one to come into a youth work centre and ask them to change the policies. It takes time. Everything takes time, whether it's the grief or death of somebody and we get over it. That's what this is. Change is something like grief, and it takes a very long time. For us to change anything, bring them in day one, nice and easy. Bring them on different trips, bring them on the same story as you. Invite them into your discussions, into your Twitter, into your Facebook, into your Instagram, whatever you want. Bring them on that journey nice and slowly. We do this all over the world, and eventually you brainwash them, whether you believe it or not. It's very slow. Sometimes in Parliament you find somebody who agrees with you straight away. Don't bother working with them. Use them as the internal spy, but work with the people in the middle who are not so sure about it and bring them on that journey.
And one last question from me. If I cannot use or put on my power on the audience, can I ask them kindly to do something?
You need to ask them.
All right.
We've changed the power dynamic now.
Yeah, I know. I'm afraid now.
Yeah, good. Especially over here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Emmanuel.